So I am John Hill. I'm the evangelist at Techstars. We are the world's leading investor in tech companies in the world. I have about 4,200 companies in our profile, in our portfolio. And I go around the world speaking at universities, within ecosystems, within conferences, about the good work that our organization and companies do. But I have a secondary experience. I used to be on the product team at LinkedIn. I was an evangelist there, and I help people navigate relational capital to create opportunity for themselves. So I used to travel all over the world on behalf of LinkedIn, and I showcase to our founders what we call Power of the Network, how to leverage affiliations for primary needs as an entrepreneur: funding, talent, customer acquisition, knowledge share, mentorship. So I'm going to go through that pathway with all of you and show you how you can effectively enable yourself to navigate a quality network and an affiliation like Yale. So start a little bit with us. We, as I said, have invested in 4,200 companies to date. We have had 450 exits, 6 go public. And you actually know us even if you don't know us. So do any of you use Uber, Airbnb? All right, so you get a receipt on the back end. That doesn't come from Uber or Airbnb. That comes from a company called SendGrid. They were the first company to go public out of an accelerator. They were acquired by Twilio for $3.1 billion, so it was a pretty good deal for us. I am from Boston, drove down this morning. I've been on the road show this week, so I actually spoke in New Mexico on Monday. I was in El Paso on Tuesday. I was in Tulsa on Wednesday, and I'm here today. Do that all again next week. But Boston is my favorite location. It's home. We have a company that was acquired by Amazon, you may have heard of before, called PillPack, to become their online pharmacy for $1 billion US. So did pretty well on that one. In New York City, other end, the third largest cloud-based hosting service in the world behind Amazon and Rackspace. It's called DigitalOcean. That was one of our companies as well. So we run 13-week accelerators. We take people through a pathing experience surrounded with mentors and investors, knowledge share, have some equity as part of the process, and spin them out into the world. We're currently operating 53 accelerators in 15 countries. In 2015, we started Up Global, which is Startup Week and Startup Weekend. That operates in 170 countries. For the first 8 years that I was at Techstars, I was the VP of Network, so I was cross-connecting all founders, mentors, investors, corporate partners, community leaders on and offline. In essence, again, building the largest entrepreneurial network in the world. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Techstars at the end of this, but the most important thing for me is to help you navigate relationships as effectively as possible. Parts of this presentation I've given about 2,000 times, so I've been doing this for a long time. As I said, was the lead product walkthrough specialist and the spokesperson for LinkedIn. So in the back, you can kind of see him as Matt Gira, who works for, help put this on for you. He's also a former Techstars founder. I guess you're always a Techstars founder. We're going to do a walkthrough with him managing my computer because we couldn't put it on stage. So this should be magical. So I'm super looking forward to this. So Matt, if you can switch to LinkedIn. I'm going to have to do this in a way that you can navigate with me, bud. And we're going to start with something that's super interesting about LinkedIn. It's the only network that allows you to take data out of it. So if you go over my network map, right in the middle where that one is, if you select contacts on the left-hand side, if you go over to the export contacts on the right side, and just stop there for a second. So if I were to select that radio button and request archive, LinkedIn will send me an CSV file, fancy term for Excel, of all my first-level connections, names, titles, companies, industries. Any communication we've had on platform comes with it, all right? CSV file, fancy term for Excel. I can do whatever I want. I can sort by job type. I can sort by company. And I can start to do what I call a relational SWOT. I can see where I'm strong on relationships and where I'm weak. And I can start to hire into where I'm weak or develop strategies to connect into where I'm weak. But this gives me a view of what my relational capital is. Now, I find it fascinating. All the companies that I work with, I've sat one-on-one with 2,000 of our Techstars companies in the past. They will develop strategies around go-to-market. They'll develop strategies around product development, but they don't do that around relationships, which is arguably the most important thing emanating around any of these companies that are here today. So that SWOT is also effective as you're growing your company. So if you're 2, 3, 4 people, you can download all your contacts, put it into one file, and you have every relationship emanating out of your company right now. Super powerful. All right. So Matt, we're going to go back and we're going to go back to the home page. So click that. So the search box up in the left-hand corner, I absolutely hate. So we're actually not going to use it, Matt. It's an iterative search. It tries to figure out what you want as you type it in. There's a much better way to navigate the relationships and information that are on this platform. So if you go over My Network and click on that, and you hit Connections, Matt, and just pause for 1 second. So LinkedIn used to have a primary navigation 12 years ago that some of you may have remembered. It was a drop-down. It said people, jobs, companies, groups. That still exists. So if you hit search with filters, Matt, it takes you into the back end. And I actually like this search more because you're using a data-centric approach to get to the relationships you need. And it defaults to all your first-level connections. So as I speak in front of audiences, I generally cover 3 principles that are super important to me. 1, build a network before you need it so it's there when you do. And you know, for all the people here who are building a company, if your first interaction with an investor is asking them for money, you've failed. So I'm actually going to get you the step process on how to get into venture. Number 2, build a quality relational network, not a quantity relational network. And I learned that lesson from Reid Hoffman at LinkedIn. I was part of the university initiative product team at LinkedIn. We built 5 products to reach 85 million people at the time, and they were all geared towards universities. Now, while I was at LinkedIn, our cubicles were like right here, and Reid's office was like right where the elevators are. And at the time, he was writing a book called The Startup of You. What he was trying to see were what were the most important relationships you have that help you navigate relational capital. Like who's most likely to help you out? And he was trying to do this from a global perspective, utilizing LinkedIn data to see what was most powerful. And what he found was fascinating. He found that 85% of job opportunities through relational networking come out of not who you know, first level connections, but who they know. Connection of a connection, second level connection. Now, for all the startups here, I would summarize your business development, your sales, your investment opportunities, your talent opportunities. It's not about who you know, it's about who they know. Now, the second thing he was able to do was show the 4 most important affiliations that could be used globally to create a quality network to give you access here. Who would move messaging from a first level to a second level? And he found that there were 4 major affiliations that help everybody out. Number 1 was friends and family. Now, the challenge with friends and family is a lot of times their network isn't big enough to help you out or aligned with what you do. So I'm an evangelist. I was a network catalyst before that. I was an evangelist before that. My family doesn't even understand my job titles, let alone how to help me out. So I have to go to the second affiliation, which is university affiliation. It's why a product team on university was built at LinkedIn. Student to student, student alumni, back to institution. And that is a super powerful affiliation. And just to prove it out real quick, I assume most of you are associated with Yale, but if you aren't, think about the university that you went to. If you are a current student, say an undergraduate, think about high school, secondary school, whatever. If you're a graduate, think about your undergraduate program. If a student from any of those experiences were to pick up the phone and give you a call and say, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about who you are and what you're about, by a show of hands, how many of you would take that call, right? And if you don't raise your hand, you're going to hell. I don't have that power, and I'm Irish Catholic, so I'm going to feel guilty about that for the next 24 hours. But the point is, all of you raised your hand, right? We're going to get back into that because there's one of the best alumni directories on the planet on this. So third affiliation is shared work experience. How many of you have worked before, right? And that's a rhetorical question. Don't raise your hand because I hope all of you have. Fourth is board work, committee work, anything you do to support and help yourself professionally. And so what Reid realized is you could build quality networks to give you access to that second level connection of a connection. So it looks like we went blank here for a little bit. Do I need to type in my password for all of you? Where are we at, Matt? We're back on, cool. All right, so let's watch this in practice for all of you. So Matt, if you click on the second, we'll look at our direct ties and our weak ties. And I can reach 1.9 million people directly or indirectly. Like, I'm not going to do that. None of you are going to do that. So I'm going to start to break it down to my primary need as, say, a founder, right? One of the things that makes my world go around is capital. And it's sometimes hard to see who has access to money. So if I go over to alt filters map and scroll down to industry, the taxonomy on industry within LinkedIn is based on what used to be called SIC codes. They're NAICIS codes. They're government designation utilized for of industry utilized for tax purposes globally. So every country in the world uses this. And it's perfectly imperfect, especially if you're trying to raise capital. So if you hit plus add industry map and type in venture capital, I can look at everybody in my network who's associated with venture capital and hit yep. That, and I can see how I relate to each one of them. So at first or second level. So now I can reach 84,000 people. Now, I'm still not going to go through 84,000 people. None of you are as well. So I want to take it down a level more. Who are the entrepreneurs in this room? All right, you are my favorite humans on earth. I can say that about you. Don't say that about yourself. That's just weird. But you are amazing human beings, right? What you try to do, jump off a cliff and build a plane before it hits the ground, like most people will never do, all right? So incredible appreciation. So what are you building? What's your company? Education, so ed tech. So for those of you who have raised capital before, you're always looking for the thesis of the investor that you're trying to reach. Like, you're trying to match what they're interested in to what you're building as a company. So Matt, in that search box, which can search this set, I want you to type ed tech in there and hit return. This is taking the written word off people's profile. That's a Boolean search. It's what Google uses. It's reductive, so the more that I use it, the smaller the numbers get. And I now have 863 people in my network at a first or second level that are in venture capital that are associated with ed tech. Pretty good lead list for venture, but let's take it further. What are you doing with ed tech? Yeah, so you want to create community at some point. All right, so next to ed tech, hit space and type in community. So it's taking these words and only representing the profiles that have each. Where are we at right now? Huh? No. What location, geography are we at right now? New Haven, all right. So let's go location, and then just hit add location, Connecticut. And I now can see the 3 people associated with Connecticut that are in ed tech, associated with community that are in venture capital, and how I relate to each one of them. Right? Is that pretty amazing? I just took 1 billion people down to a level that could help him out. Right? And he can visualize what that is. Now, what I find is the vast majority of people are on LinkedIn, but they're not on it strategically, and that includes all of you. There's a reason for that. LinkedIn's UI UX sucks, and somehow through time and OKRs, they've made it suckier. So they hide some of the best value, and I'm going to continue to uncover this as we go along. So remember I said venture capital, that structure is weighty, it's too heavy. So I can work at Amazon, I can work at Meta, I can still invest in companies, and I don't show on that search I just did for you. So I can use keyword search on this to get to where I need. So hit reset on the right map, and then up in the box, in quotes, we'll look at another set of investors. Put angel investing, or angel investor. Yeah, and then quotes. And the reason I'm taking quotes is taking the full phrase written on people's profiles. So they've actually written these words together, right? And I can see the 62,000 people who have written angel investor on their profile. So let's go back up and hit first and second level. And I can see the 32,000 people I can reach as angel investors directly and indirectly. Name another company in this room, what you're doing. What do you have? Okay, what are you doing? Startup products. So you're working with startup ecosystems. Yeah. All right, so next to angel investor, type in startup map. All right, so next to startup, type in community, which is a consistent theme with the two of you. So now I can see the 499 people who have written startup and community on their profile that are angel investors. And I can keep taking this down to location if I want, but I can go through 400, 500 profiles in a day to see the people who match what I'm doing, right? Pretty cool? You could literally, like, yes. I mean, it's a Boolean search, and or you can do anything you want, right, across the board. All right. So what was the second most powerful affiliation that I talked about to build a quality network? University affiliation, right? So when Reed was doing research, what he found was fascinating. University affiliation completes about a third of the time. So if you think about Yale helping Yale, independent of warm introductions, a connection will happen a third of the time. So if there are 3 people who work at Google, all of them went to Yale, and I reached out to all 3 of them. Even if we don't know each other or anybody knows, or we don't know anybody in between, expectation through data is one of those people will respond. University affiliation is one of the most powerful affiliations out there, and I'll show you what that looks like in practice. So let's go back up to the end, like where angel investor startup community is, and clear that all out, and start typing in Yale, and then select school, which is what we're looking for, and then click on that and stop for just a second, Matt. So this was one of the teams we were on. We mapped longitudinal career data to every university in the world. How many of you have had a profile on LinkedIn for more than 10 years? All right. Do you remember when you first typed in your university, you could type it in however you wanted? It wasn't self-select. So you could do Yale or Yale University, right? To the user, that's the same university. To data, that's 2 different universities. So we had to put the genie back in the bottle to make what I'm about to show you work. So our developers used to follow me around, and they built what I'm about to show you and affectionately called it John Hill in a box. This is my baby. This is the alumni directory that every university in the world should have built, and we did it. So if you click on alumni, it shows all the alumni from Yale, and scroll over, Matt, on that little arrow on the right-hand corner. Yep, by where they live, where they work, keep going, what they do, what they're skilled at, what they studied, and how you're connected to them. So literally, I can start to go through the entire Yale alumni network to find the people who can help me out. So Matt, we're going to go back to what they're skilled at, and we're going to give everybody here, all the entrepreneurs, a 3rd lead list that they have in their network right now. So we're going to type in +add venture capital. I could do angel investing, I could do family office, I can do corporate venture, whatever, but we'll do venture capital. And I can now see all the people who went to Yale that are in venture capital. So have been endorsed by their community for this skill, 3,000. So hit show more, and then select San Francisco, 413, hyper-economic zone, great place to raise capital. What's another startup in this room? Who has a company in this room? What are you doing? All right, social media. So type in social media there. And scroll below. So here are the 52 people that are in VC in Yale associated with social media, again, thesis. And I can see how I relate to each one of them, right? And then what was the expectation through even cold reach based on university connection? 1 in 3 would be responsive, right? So this starts to become formulaic. I can see how I can connect into the people who can help me out. Pretty amazing, right? All right, and is there anybody here who is looking for a job? All right, you're looking for a job right now? Did you go to Yale? What degree are you getting? Okay. So what would you like to, what are you studying? What's your postdoc in? Neuroscience. I think you're all right. All right. But, all right. So let's go back to home to reset this because we did a search term. So type in Yale again in the box. So LinkedIn's just a little wonky. It's easier to do it this way. And then hit alumni. All right. And let's go over to what they studied. So click over right twice, up, yep, keep going. Okay, so this has been broken for a while. It may be broken now. So can you add +add, Matt? Type in neuroscience. Yeah, it's not autofilling. So go back, like clear that out, and then in the search alumni by title, keyword, and company, type in neuroscience, and we're going to trick this real quick for you. All right. So now we're going to go back to what they studied, and it should show. So go back up to the over a couple. Yep. So right there, studied neuroscience. Now clear out. Yep. Select that. Clear out little n, because we use that just to trick the system. And here are the 1,700 alumni that graduated in neuroscience, right? Where do you want to live? New Haven. How about you pick my place, Boston, right? It's a pretty good place for neuroscientists, right? All right. So Greater Boston, 133, and I can see where all those people work now. So it gives me the pathway to opportunities based on people walking in front of me, right? And I can see how I relate to each one of them. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about. If you're first asked to a investors for money you've failed, but I'm using this for you from the job search perspective. Informational interviewing is among the most powerful things you can do. Try to connect with these people through affiliation like Yale. Say, I'd really like to talk to you about what it's like to be a neuroscientist in Boston. I'm wondering if you take a few minutes to talk to me about that, right? Same reason most of you raise your hand. Likelihood of them connecting with you is high. And in that process, you can ask what the work environment's like, how they got into the position they're on in their pathway. You can start to try in the suit for the interview process without actually going through the interview, right? The interesting thing about that is after a conversation like that, if you get your resume or your CV in their hands, they can take it down to HR and you become an internal referral, and increases the chances of you getting a role there. Now, for the startups, there's a different approach I would take here, all right? But it's kind of similar in thought process. There's an old adage in Silicon Valley that if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice, right? So we're going to play into the advice role when we're engaging with people, especially those 3 lead lists I just gave you on investors, where I'm going through relationships. At a first level, hey, so-and-so, I know you from work, for university, we're friends and family. Could you connect me to the second person? And if you built a quality network, you get access to that second person. Now, on that second person, I want to ask a piece of advice. So I was in charge of the Global Mentor Network at Techstars. We have 12,000 mentors that have added their time to support our founders globally. We don't pay them. They do it on their own volition. And we ask them all the time, why are you doing what you're doing? And there are 4 main reasons that mentors mentor through our accelerators. Number 1 is altruism. They just want to give back. That's an easy one. Number 2 is your gift back to the people you're trying to engage with. They want insight into technological trends or trends. They want to see what the world looks like 2 to 5 years from now. If you're building a startup, you're tip of the spear. You're already ahead of the curve, right? And we're going to get back to that in just a second. Third, they want their own opportunities, board work, advisor work, C-level positions. Number 4, they want what's called qualified deal flow. So they mentor our companies to see if they want to invest in them. So we're going to play off 2 and 4 in this scenario, looking for capital. So say we're back in that, looking at all the people in venture capital that went to Yale in San Francisco that are associated with EdTech, right? And I reach out to people I have at a first level that I've built quality networks with to give me access to that second level. To that second level person on an affordable email, I'm saying something like, hey, my name's John. I'm a graduate of Yale. I'm building this company associated with EdTech. I see that you have interest in the space and you're working in venture. I have some insights that I think are interesting that I'd love to share with you. And by the way, if you've never read the book Give and Take from Adam Grant, it is absolutely phenomenal. He's a PhD from Pennsylvania, and he actually talks about the psychology of navigating relationships in this way. So with that person, I've started with give. On the ask, hey, I would really love your insight on X, whatever that is, right? Now, if I get that person on the phone and have a conversation with them and they give me advice, they're giving a piece of themselves to me, right? It's an emotional connection. If every interaction I have with them, I ask for a piece of advice, it adds an emotional connection. So downstream, I become the 4th reason people mentor qualified deal flow, right? Because they've got to know the person and the product and service as we've gone through the conversation. And it takes a while to go through that process, but I promise you it's worth it. It's a way where we can kind of reverse engineer the connections that we need to help us downstream. So I'm going to go through talent for a second because I absolutely love talking about it. I used to be the director of alumni career services for Michigan State University, and it feels like a lifetime ago. But that was 15 years ago. And if you map that back, that was at the height of the recession. I was at Michigan State University in the state where the automotive industry is, which literally drove off the cliff. And overnight, we had 260,000 alumni who were directly and indirectly tied to it, looking for their next job, their next opportunity, trying to redevelop their personal professional brand. That's actually where I learned that build a network before you need it, so it's there when you do. That was the application that I saw first, where I had to help people redefine who they were and what they were about. But I love talent because of that. Ended up LinkedIn, obviously we do a lot of talent there. And what I want for startups is to think about the talent pipeline different. Every hire that you hire has to be the next best hire. Every single one of them. When you hit 20 hires, your culture starts to set. So that's how quickly all that happens. And in all that pattern matching, the 2,000 companies I've talked to through Techstars, I find that your first 10 hires come out of people you know, first level connections, and people they know, second level connections. It's fascinating how that dovetails with research. At about that time, you hired somebody in HR and they broaden out the funnel and things change. But those early hires, those most important hires, we can identify through our network already. So any startups here hiring somebody right now? What kind of position are you looking for?
We're looking for operations.
Operations. All right. Where are you building your company?
We started in Shanghai. We have a site in Wuhan in Mongolia, and we're incorporated in Singapore.
In Singapore. All right. So let's look at Singapore. All right. So we're going to use the university tool again. Look at National University Singapore. Matt, type that up in the left-hand corner. So that same tool I just showed you, the alumni tool, I can apply to every market in the world. And by the way, I can still do search like angel investor, ed tech, like we did with you earlier. But hit the alumni tool. So you're looking for somebody who understands ed tech. So let's start there. Type in ed tech. Hit return. So now we're down to 495. We just want the ones in Singapore in our backyard. So hit that. Scroll over. And type in what they're skilled at, plus add, operations. Operations management work for you? All right. Now scroll all the way over to the full right side. Hit that, the second level. So here are the two people I know in Singapore in operations with EdTech on their profile that went to National University of Singapore, which is a Fortune 500 or Fortune 400 top 400 university based on the Shanghai rankings. So one of the elite universities in the world, right? And I can see who can connect me with these people and reach out to them. I'm already recruiting out of a network. I might as well become a headhunter. Now, if I do that, I get them, and by the way, I want to stop for 1 second because I always miss this when I'm talking because I get going. And by the way, you can tell I'm originally from the East Coast. You're conversationally irrelevant if you don't talk fast. So I have that habit of like speeding up as we go along, right? But for all of you, what's the most effective way to communicate with somebody? Face to face, right? What's the second most effective way to communicate with somebody? Phone, Hangout, Zoom, I'll give you those, right? What's the least effective way to communicate with somebody? Keep throwing it out. Text, email, right? LinkedIn email is like 11th, right? What's your primary way of communicating with people right now? Text, email, all the things you just said are horrible, right? Your most important relationships move into those first two buckets, face-to-face, phone-to-phone. Right? And I'll give you an example of why I'm saying this. I don't think he was on the list, but one of my good connections worked in Singapore for a number of years, Dennis List. I make it a point once a quarter to do a video call with him. He's in Amsterdam now, just to catch up. And he's doing some really interesting things around corporate entrepreneurship. So I learned from him in the process. But like map out your most important relationships. But here, with one of these people, scroll down. Let's look who those are again. Say I was trying to reach Patrina. Do that through relationship. If I get her on the phone and say, hey, I have this opportunity for you, there are 3 things she can do. Most likely that she'll do, not interested. Does that hurt you at all? This took 20 seconds. We did it over a cup of coffee, right? Second most likely thing, not interested, but I'll share with my network. Who's she networked with? Other people in operations in Singapore that understand ed tech, right? Least likely, but could happen, I'm interested. And you just qualified somebody through network and you're doing it already. You're already hiring people that way. Any of you trying to sell into companies? What kind of companies? Name one. Honeywell? All right. So type up Honeywell next to LinkedIn. Yep. All right. We could use university, but our networks don't work that way when we're trying to break into corporates. So when I come in here, this is the company page. So every employee who works at Honeywell is mapped to this. Now, there is just so much gold here, it's silly. So let's start with life. Honeywell actually pays LinkedIn for this button. And if you go down this, it's a series of videos and testimonials about how great it is to work at Honeywell. If you start to read through this, they're telling you their values. They're telling you the words that are important to them. They're telling you how to speak their language. You can use this to pitch back at them product and service, right? Take those words and use them against them, right? Now, click back on the home page, Matt, and look down to the right-hand side and scroll down. Keep scrolling, and see products people also use, right? Go far right, bud. All right, here. Now go down a little bit more, other way. Up, right there. Hit show all on that. All right, so these are based on user patterns within LinkedIn, right? They're showing the companies that are most similar, either from a supply chain perspective or usage, right? So if I'm selling into small and mid-sized businesses, this just gave me a lead list of 20 other companies I could sell into if I sell into one, right? I can see the pattern match. Now close that out. Go to the top, bud. You could, yeah. No, you can't take that down to Connecticut, not that list. But there's another way we can do something similar. Hit people. They applied John Hill in a box to every company page 2.5 years ago. And by the way, startups here, who has a company page? All right, your first 100 followers or first 1,000 followers, you can bucket pretty easily because they generally fall into 4 buckets. Number 1, friends and family. Rah, cheer. You can move them to the side, they're great. But number 2, people who want to use your product. It's lead generation for sales. And this is on the professional network, so you can see them. Number 3, people who want to work at your company. It's talent generation. Number 4, people who want to mentor or invest in you. Actionalize the people who are following you on platforms like LinkedIn. But here I can find the decision maker that I'm looking for to sell into manufacturing. Who are you trying to sell into? All right, what kind of engineers? All right, so electrical engineers. All right, go scroll over. Keep going. Click on all the people electrical and electronics engineering. Get what you do from major. All right, scroll all the way to the right as well. And we're going to click on the second level so I can see the 22 people I reached there. Do you want them to know anything? What does your company do? Okay, so components. All right, so what would that fall into? Production, supply chain? Supply chain. All right, so let's look at, hit show more, and let's see if anybody under operations, if supply chain comes up. Doesn't, but there's 2 people who are related to entrepreneurship, which would be good people to connect to. All right, go back to what they're skilled at. And we're going to look at everybody skilled at, plus add, supply chain. Yep, supply chain management. Scroll down. So here are the 2 people in my network, supply chain management, that work at Honeywell, that have electrical engineering degrees, and I can see how I relate to each one of them. I worked with Garth for a decade at Michigan State University. I know that he knows Ying, right? I just know how he builds networks. He builds them old school. If I reached out to him, he would connect me with Ying. All right. So here is an interesting reverse way to find the due diligence, the information you're looking for. So click the 10,000 plus employees over there. That link is actually a hyperlink. So this is going to show that search we were looking at before. These are all the people who work at Honeywell currently. Hit all filters and scroll down. Where'd you go to school? All right, well, let's really see if this works. That would be awesome. All right, so keep going. Go to company. Go up. Nope. Ooh. Go up. Deselect all those things. I'm sorry about that, Matt. I'm like putting you through the paces. All right, keep going, and then past company, hit Honeywell. All right, and school, hit plus add. What was it again? Does it still exist? Gateway? Type in gateway. Gateway technology? Gateway community. All right. Right there, bud. It showed up. Third one, right? Is that, oh, second one. Second one. There we go. Select that. Hit show results. There are 14 people who went to your school that used to work at Honeywell. If I pick those up the phone, and by the way, I can search on the left-hand side. Go up to the top and type in components. Hit return. Here are the 2 people who have components on their profile that went to your community college that used to work at Honeywell. If I pick up the phone and give them a call, they'll tell me everything. The right people to connect to, the right approach. They'll give me the due diligence, the signals on how to connect with Honeywell. Pretty cool? All right. So let's go. I can't believe that just worked, by the way. So go to home, up on the top. All right. I'm going to wrap on 3 things. So who's viewed your profile as like the most voyeuristic thing on LinkedIn? I've looked at it like 5 times during this presentation. No, I'm just kidding. That would be impossible. But if I pitch product and service to somebody like Honeywell and the person I pitched it to looks at my profile after I've met with them, what does that tell you? They wouldn't look otherwise, right? If I pitch product and service to somebody and then somebody else who works at that company but was not in the meeting looks at my profile, what does it tell you? They're talking about you, really good or really bad, but they're talking about you. I don't know which one, right? Okay, content. Really quickly, Matt, I'm not going to go all the way into this, but hit post impressions right under that. All of you now are asking, especially the new startups, you're being asked to be a brand of yourself and a brand of your company, which is super difficult. Little trick for you, the average person can only remember 4 things about you. So I talk about Techstars, I talk about LinkedIn, Michigan State, and Boston. You've heard me reference all those things during this talk. That's what I talk about in social. So keep it tight, right? There's a philosophy called COPE, create once, publish everywhere. Take the quintessential germ of what you're writing and then just adjust it to all the mediums. Example, LinkedIn is where business takes place, right? So you start with that premise. If I'm trying to communicate on things like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever, it's the water coolest. Steady stream of information people are interested in right now, right? Bite-sized stuff. So I can shift it. Now, if you hit post impressions up here, that 19,902, LinkedIn's done something pretty solid for you. It is starting to metric the value of the data, the content that you're putting out there. So if you hit this, this post right at the bottom, top performing posts. So I posted that 5 days ago. I'm a huge fan of supporting an impactful corporate culture. Click on that, Matt. Okay, and now scroll down and hit View Analytics. So what they're starting to do is help you communicate with your people, the people you're trying to reach more effectively. So change company size to job title. I speak to founders all day long. If founders aren't reading my content, I'm missing it, right? And I can post different content here to see what they're consuming. So I can start to get better at the content that I'm posting. All right, so the last thing, and you can start to go to the toolkit, Matt, but notifications up there. Yes, kind of. It is a little bit more difficult. So before I start talking about this, and I'll wrap, you saw the notifications up on the top end of LinkedIn. I'm a huge believer of watering your network, and I've made it formulaic because I'm so busy. So as I told you, like this week, I started out in El Paso, I was in Albuquerque, or I was in Las Cruces, then I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and now I'm here, and that's my every week. So like next week, I'm in Raleigh-Durham, and then I'm in New Orleans, and then I'm in LA, and that's all within 5 days. Because of that, I have to be intentional about how I connect with people in my network, how I keep my network warm. So I go up to notifications, and I'll try to take 20 actions every day. And if I see somebody's moved from one city to another, one country to another, I'll introduce them to people where they're going. If I see somebody has a new job, I'll introduce them to people I know at that company, if I can. If I see somebody posting something of content, celebrating something they're doing professionally, I'll email them directly. I don't hit the like button, right? I do that 20 times a day, 100 times a week, 5,000 times a year. I'm celebrating things that people are doing professionally. Whenever I come into a market, and I've actually done it since I've been here today, I shoot a note to people who I won't be able to see, just saying, "Hey, I'm thinking of you. I'm here." Right? That's it. Most people won't respond, but they know, like, I reached out. End of every year, I write 100 handwritten notes to people affected my life the year prior, talking about how we can work together next year. I do that in lieu of holiday cards. And people always ask me how I get addresses. Like, if you literally send somebody a note saying, "Hey, I want to send you a thank you note," you get an address, right? It's about as simple as that. But if I ask any of those people to help any of the founders out that I'm connected to, and I'm connected to about 8,000 Techstars founders and participants, do you think they're likely to do it? Yeah. And that's why I do that, right? That's why I keep my networks warm. So at Techstars, we've provided some gifts to all entrepreneurs. This one's not gated. So this is the Techstars Toolkit. If you scroll down, Matt, and just click on one of the topics, these are the best learnings we've synthesized from our accelerators. And if you keep going down, it's a step-by-step, keep going down, step-by-step, keep going, video of our best speakers on every one of these subjects. So you can learn with them step by step. You don't even have to go through our accelerator, although we would like that. Second, if scroll over one more tab to venture deals, we've reversed, whoops, and not click it out. So there we go. We reverse engineered our best investors saying how to approach them in video tutorial. It is great stuff. Any of you looking for jobs, including a job in neuroscience, go to the far right one. This is today. This company is called Getro. It looks at portfolios and all the jobs available. Slice of Life 3,800 and keyword search. We're going to help our friend and type in neuroscience. And we have no jobs for you. I'm sorry. So keep looking back for that. I was hoping that would work out. That would have been perfect. I would have dropped the microphone and walked off stage. All right. So, but keep looking for those kind of search terms for things that would impact and affect you. I absolutely adore entrepreneurs. It's why I get on planes and go everywhere I go all the time. I built my company in 1997 in Web 1.0. It was a sports marketing tool that helped cut through the marketing clutter. We were pitching $1 million programs to Jim Beam, Pepsi, Dixie, Sylvania, and they were buying them, and I think it was because we were young. And if you think about Nashville at that time, there was no appreciable market supporting entrepreneurs and innovators. Being an entrepreneur is owning a used car lot. Like, the stuff I was doing was foreign. It was in New York or San Francisco. That's about it. It was the most mentally taxing, most lonely experience I've ever had as a professional. And you can tell I'm an extrovert off the charts. So, like, I'm used to communicating and connecting with people. But it was interesting because you were characterized as almost a failure for not having a job in corporate, trying to do something out of the ether. These communities that are here have spun out are amazing. And I didn't get to witness this back in the day, but I vowed from that point forward I'd never let anybody feel lonely, that I would try to spur and connect into communities all over the world to continue to use tools like this to act as a safety net for everyone who's doing unique things like all of you are. Any entrepreneur in this room, you have this uncanny ability to suspend disbelief and do something that nobody else in the world has done, or do it better. That is a gift. Keep leaning into it. And I talked about the takeaways that I wanted you to all have in this talk. One was build a network before you need it so it's there when you do. Number two is build a quality relational network, not a quantity relational network. And I think I helped you with both of those things and the structures to navigate, to support yourself. Super tactical. You can do everything I just showed you. But the most important thing is just continue to dream big. Kauffman Foundation, which looks at the health of entrepreneurship, and the report that I always go back to is from the US, 2021. The new start rate for any company, not just a tech startup, but any company, was 0.34% in full year 2021, which means out of 100,000 people, only 340 started a company. You're a unicorn before you even try to be a unicorn. Again, I go back to being an entrepreneur is like jumping off the cliff and trying to build the plane before it hits the ground, right? Find the people who will extend the runway, bring the ground up. They are out there, I promise you. And just keep doing what you're doing. The 4 primary things that I've seen of our most successful companies, 450 exited, 6 gone public. And when I look at those founders, the skills that they had to get them through were not hard skills. It was resiliency, it was adaptability, it was curiosity, and competitiveness, right? So those are the things to lean on to support yourself going forward. I thank you all for allowing me to do this. Matt, thank you for hosting me here. And I wish you all the luck in the world. Hopefully I left you with something that was borderline inspirational and tactical mixed, which is a rarity in presentations nowadays. So thank you all. Good luck to you.